It is said that during the Zheng reign of Emperor Hizong of the Song dynasty, there was a romantic young man in Qing County, Dongbing Prefecture, Shandong Province. He was tall and handsome, had a handsome temperament, had several family assets, and was 26 or 7 years old. This man's surname is Ximen, and he only has the word king. His father, Ximen, used to sell medicinal materials in Sichuan and Guangzhou, and he opened a large herbal medicine shop in front of Qing County. Now we live in a house with 5 rooms in front and 7 entrances in the end. The family has slaves and maids, and there are many mules and horses in the family. Although it is not very wealthy, it is still a well-to-do family in Qing County. Just because Ximen Da Yuan and his wife died early, but they cherished this son in every possible way, and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. So he didn't study much and spent all his time wandering around. After the death of his parents, he devoted himself to sleeping outside in flowers and willows, stirring up grass and wind. He learned some good boxing and sticks, and was good at gambling, Shuanglu chess, and Taoist characters. The friends I have made are also people who talk nonsense and do not keep their duties. The first one who is most compatible with him is Royal Ying, whose cousin is Guangzhou. He was originally the second son of a waiter who opened a silk and satin shop. He lost his capital and fell down, and became a prostitute in the third courtyard of the company. Therefore, people gave him a nickname called Ying Wasi. I will have a good Chi Mao Q again, and all the Shuanglu chess pieces will work. The second surname is Si, whose name is Saida and whose courtesy name is Sichin. He is the descendant of King Yui, an official from thousands of households. His parents died when he was young. He was idle and lost his future. He was also a helper and was good at playing the pipa. Since these two got along very well with Ximen King, there are a few others, all of whom live in shabby settlements and have no famous weapons. One is called Zhu Xinian, whose name is Gongsheng. One is called Sun Tianhua, whose cousin is Boxiu and whose nickname is Sun Zizui. One is named Wu Dian, who was born in Yin and Ong in the county. He retired due to some affairs and devoted himself to guaranteeing debts with officials in front of the county, so as to communicate with Ximen King. There is also a brother of Yan Shenzhen named Yan Lishu, whose name is Feiku. One is called Chang Jiji, which means Jianshu. One is called Bu Zhidao. One is called Bai Lai Guang, which means Guangdong. Speaking of Bai Lai Guang, some people said that his name was not pleasant, but he explained it himself. Otherwise, I changed it, just because when I first named it, it was a gentleman who said that my surname was Bai. There is a story about a white fish leaping into King Wu's boat. There are also 2 lines in the book that say, there is a great wealth in the Zhou dynasty, and there is light in the soup. Taking this meaning, the name is called Guangtang. Because he has this story, I won't change it anymore. It is said that there were more than 10 people in this group. Seeing that Ximen King had money and was willing to do anything, they all coaxed him to play with money, drink, and engage in prostitution and gambling. Exactly, holding a cup with a cup in one hand and holding a cup in one's hands are full of emotions. How can brothers be so close to each other? Once the storm rises from the ground, it is only at this moment that we meet and see our hearts. Speaking of you, if a family like this gave birth to such an unworthy son, and made such a group of useless and harmful friends, no matter how rich you are, you will become poor. And there is still no time to make progress. But there is a reason why Ximen King Sheng came here, because of his strong nature, his treacherous motives, and his ability to pay off official debts. Even the 4 treacherous officials in the court, namely Gao, Yang, Tong, and Kai, had connections with him. Therefore, he specializes in managing official affairs in the county and interfering with others to make money. Therefore, everyone in the county is afraid of him. Because he ranked first, people called him the great official of Ximen. The leader of Ximen's official family, the Chen family, died young, leaving only one daughter, Ximen's eldest sister. She agreed to marry Chen Jingji, the son of Chen Hong, the in-law of young Admiral, the 800,000-strong imperial guard in Tokyo, but they had not yet married. Just because his wife died and there was no one to take care of the housework, he recently married the daughter of Wu Qianhu, the left guard of Qing County in this county. to fill the house as his stepmother. This Wu family was 25 or 6, born on August 15th, and her nickname was Sister Yu. Later, when she married into the Ximen King family, they all called her Yunang. But he said that this Yunyang was a virtuous person, and her husband was obedient to her. There are also 3 or 4 maids and women in the room, all of whom were used by Ximen King Shu. He also tried to have sex with Li Jiar and Gulan, and also married and became the second wife of the family. South Street also occupied the second sister Zhuo, named Shuo Dyer. After taking care of her for a while, she also married into the family and became the third wife. Just because the second sister Zhuo was thin and timid, and often suffered from 3 illnesses and for pains, he went to flirt with the moon and tease other women. Exactly, the host's family sings and drinks drunken beauty, and holds a banquet to the west neighbor. For a few days, the green peach blossoms have been lying under it, and the peonies are always in bloom. It is said that Ximen King was sitting at home one day and said to Wu Yunyang, "It is now the 25th of September, and the 3rd day of the lunar month is the meeting day for our brothers. On that day, there will be 2 neat banquets. I asked my 2 singing sisters to spend a day playing happily with my brothers at our house. You and I cook." Wu Yunyang then said, "Don't talk about these people. They are the ones with conscience and good trade. There are no wandering spirits who come here to seduce people every day and bump into corpses. I think you set up this person yourself. When have you ever had such a thing? It's just a family." Now that second sister Zhuo feels bad about herself, I advise you to stop drinking that wine. Ximen King said, "Your other words are quite pleasing to the ear, but I am a little impatient to hear what he said today. According to you, none of these brothers are good people, and no one is disobedient to him, and they do things very properly. Even Zizichen is a good person who is smart and able to do things. We are just fussing over things like this now. We just want to let the meeting come and go, but it will never be real. We might as well become sworn brothers when the meeting is over, so that we can have someone to rely on tomorrow." Closer, Wu Yunyang took over and said, "It's okay to be brothers. I'm afraid you will have to rely on someone else in the future. If you want to rely on others, just carry the puppet to the theater. It will only take a breath." Ximen King smiled and said, "Since I have always relied on others, I can't get any better. Let's just wait for the second brother Ying to come and say this to him." While they were talking, they saw a young boy with pretty features and smart eyes. He was originally Ximen King's personal attendant. His name was Diana. He walked up to him and said, "Uncle Ying and Uncle Z are out to talk to Dad." Ximen King said, "I was talking about him, but 2 of them came." As he walked up to the hall, he saw Earl Ying wearing a new Xuanluo hat on his head and a half-new azure crepe pleated dress. He took off silk shoes and socks and sat at the top. The person sitting next was Z Zaida, whose surname was Z. Seeing Ximen King come out, they all stood up and hurriedly bowed and said, "Brother is at home. I haven't seen him much for days." Ximen King asked him to sit down, called for tea, and said, "You good people, I have been impatient these days. If I don't go out for a walk, you won't be able to come and watch me." The Earl said to Shi, "What's the matter? I told my brother to tell me." Because he said to Ximen King, "Brother, what's strange about you is that we don't even know what we are busy with all day long. We have to feed and can't keep up with a mouth." Ximen King Yin asked, "Where have you been these past 2 days?" The Count said, "Yesterday, I saw a child at the Li family in the courtyard. She is the sister of Gisheng, the niece of my second sister-in-law. She is called Sister Gui. I haven't seen him for a while, and he looks very handsome. When I grow up tomorrow, I still don't know how to behave." Yesterday, his mother said to me again and again, "Second father, you must find a good son to groom him. I'm afraid I'll still be my brother's goods tomorrow." Ximen King said, "There is such a thing. Let's go and take a look when we are free." Zaida took it over and said, "Brother, I don't believe it. Wei is born in a very sexy way." Ximen King asked, "I was at his house yesterday, but where did you come and go in the past few days?" The Earl asked, "Brother Bu Zhidao died the day before yesterday. We helped create chaos in his house for a few days and sent him out. My sister-in-law told me over and over again, asking me to pay homage to my brother. Brother Cheng sent me some incense to pay homage to him, because he didn't have a good place to go to. And there wasn't a good banquet in the evening, so he couldn't invite me to sit down. It was a big mistake. Go, Ximen King said. I heard that he was not good for a few days, so he just waited for death. The day before yesterday, I accepted him as a gift of a real Jinchuan fan. I was about to express my gratitude with him, but I didn't expect him to do it again, old friend. Zishi sighed and said, there are 10 brothers in our guild, but he is missing one more, because he said to the Earl, on the 3rd day of the lunar month. It is also the meeting period. We have to worry about the officials spending money here. And the brothers can play for a day, Ximen King said. Exactly, I just told you that our brothers seem to be coming and going here and there, but we are just drinking and having fun. We don't have anything to say. It's better to find a temple and write down a message. We started sworn brothers, and we will support each other and have someone to rely on in the future. At that time, we will have to spend some money to become a comprador. And all the brothers will contribute as much as they want. It is not our department that sends you. This matter of sworn worship, everyone has something to do. And there is also some affection. The Earl quickly said, brother is right. My mother-in-law can't burn incense while I recite the Buddha's name. And each of us has to do his or her own thing. But among us, rats have sores on their tails. Even if there is pus, there won't be many. Ximen King smiled and said, you are a weirdo. Who wants you to come more? You said this? Zizadao, 10 sworn vows are required. Now that brother Buzhadao is gone, who will replace him? Ximen King pondered for a while and said, our second brother, the Wallflower, was originally the nephew of Eunuch Hua. He is willing to spend a lot of money in his hands and often walks around the courtyard. The courtyard behind his house is only separated from ours by a wall. It doesn't matter to me, so we might as well ask the boy to invite him over. Earl Ying clapped his hands and said, how dare you be the Hua Zixu who is wrapping up Wu Yin'er in the courtyard? Ximen King said, it's him? The Earl smiled and said, brother, quickly ask that high official to invite him. Talk to him, let's go back and forth. I dare to have another wine bowl in the future, Ximen King said with a smile. Silly flower boy, how dare you harm a glutton? You're talking about eating. Everyone laughed. Ximen Qingshuan called Diana and said, go to Jianbi Hua's house and say to your second father Hua, my father is going to sworn 10 brothers on the 3rd day of the lunar month. How dare you ask me to invite my second father? Let's meet. See what he says. Then you can tell me what to say. If your second father is not at home, just tell his second mother. Danner accepted the promise and went. The Earl asked, how about you stay here with me until that day? How about you stay in a temple? Shi Daodao said, we have only 2 temples here, the Yangfu Temple for monks and the Jade Emperor Temple for Taoists. These to wherever you go, just go there. Ximen King said, this matter of sworn worship is not the responsibility of the monk family. I am not familiar with the monks in the temple. It is better that Wu Taoist official of the Jade Emperor Temple is familiar with me. His place is spacious and quiet. The Earl took it and said, what I'm saying is that the monk from Yangfu Temple has a good relationship with Xi's sister-in-law, so I recommend him to go there. She laughed and scolded, old man, it's a serious matter. And you fart just by talking about it. While we were chatting and laughing, I saw Diana turning round. He said to Ximen King, his second father is not at home, so I told his second mother to come. After hearing this, the second mother was very happy and said, since it is your father Ximen who is carrying you, your second father is a brother, so one of you won't come. I'll tell him when he comes home, and I'll definitely encourage him to come and pay homage to him more often. I brought the younger one to more tea snacks. Ximen King responded and thanked them. This second brother Hua is indeed a smart and beautiful lady. After saying that, he took another cup of tea and ate it. The 2 of them stood up together and said, brother, let's say goodbye. Let's go and inform the brothers and ask him to share the capital. Brother, let's go and talk to Wu Daoguan first, Ximen King said. I know, I won't keep you either. So they were sent out of the gate together. Earl Ying walked a few steps, then turned around and said, are we going to sing that day? Ximen King said, That's it, brothers, chatting and laughing. It's more interesting. After speaking, the Earl raised his hand and went with Saida. Stop talking and twist your fingers, 4 or 5 days have passed, but it is the first day of October. Ximen King got up early and just sat in Yunyang's room. He saw a young boy with a hairless head, holding a gold-painted and polished worship box in his hand. He came in, kowtowed to Ximen King, and stood up. Standing next to him, he said, I am from the Hua family, and my father pays homage to Father Ximen. That day, Father Ximen asked the senior official to invite my father. My father went out for something and did not receive advice in person. I heard that my father was here. It was the meeting on the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year. My father's special envoy sent me these shares first, saying that my father would use them randomly first, and he would make up for the distribution tomorrow after he used as many as he needed. Ximen King picked up the envelope and looked at it. The signature said share 1 tael and said, it's too much, so there is no need to make up for it. I will tell my father not to go there the day after tomorrow. I will go to the temple with all my fathers early in the morning. The young boy responded, I know, little one. Just as he turned around, Wu Yunyang called him and asked the eldest girl Yu Xiao to pick out steamed fruit fillings from the food basket and give them to him, because he said, this is tea for you. When you go home and pay homage to your mother, tell Mrs. Ximen that she will be invited to sit there for half a day in a few days. The boy accepted it, kowtowed again, and went in response. Ximen Qingkai sent the boy from the Hua family out. He saw Earl Ying Bo holding a worship box. Diana brought him in, kowtowed and said, my father has been asking the fathers to share their capital. The little one is here. Dad, please accept it. Ximen King took it out and looked at it. There were 8 letters in total. He didn't open them and handed them all to Yunyang, saying, you take them and go to the temple tomorrow so that you can buy things together. After that, Ying Bao was sent away. He stood up and went over there to see Sister Zhuo. As soon as I walked to sit down, I saw Yu Xiao coming and said, Mom, please ask Dad to speak. Ximen King said, why didn't you tell me at first? Then he went to the upper room and saw Yunyang spreading some paper packages in front of her, pointing and smiling. Look at these elements. They only have to cents for 1 penny. 80% of the silver, and the rest were 3 cents and 5 cents, all red and yellow, like gold. Our family has never seen this silver come. And the one who took it has a bad reputation. So why not just rob him and give him back? Ximen King said, you have to be patient. Just throw it away. We will make up for it if you have more. Don't care about that. As he said, he kept moving forward. On the 2nd day of the next day, Ximen King weighed out 4 taels of silver and asked his family to come to Qing to buy a pig, a sheep, 5 or 6 jars of Jinhua wine, incense candles, paper notes, chickens and ducks, wine tables, and 5 more coins. Yinzi, Zhuang called the big family to Bao, Daenair and Lakesing, and said, send them to the Jade Emperor Temple and tell your master Wu. My father will sworn brother tomorrow, and I want a trouble master to make up paper. In the evening, let's spread the blessings here with master. I'll ask master and my dad to get ready. My dad will come tomorrow morning. Daenair went there for a while and said back and forth, it has been sent. Master Wu said he understands. A moment later, after the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year, and on the morning of the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year the next day, Ximen King got up and washed up, and called Diana, go and invite Father Hua to have breakfast with us, so that we can go to the temple together. As soon as we arrive at the 2nd Uncle Ying home, ask him to urge everyone. Dan agreed to go, and just as he invited Hua Zixu to arrive, he saw Count Ying and a group of brothers also arriving, but they were the same people mentioned earlier. The leader is Count Ying, Si Zaida, Sun Tianhua, Zhu Nianxi, Wu Dian, Yun Lishu, Chang Zhiji, Bai Lai Guang, Ximen King, Hua Zixu, a total of 10. When they came in, they all circled the basket and made a bow. The Earl said, it's time for us to get better. Ximen King said, we'll wait until we have breakfast. Then he called, bring tea. One side shouted, look at the vegetables. After a while, after breakfast, Ximen King changed his clothes, picked out some nice clothes, and went to the Jade Emperor Temple together. Less than a few miles away, I had already seen the temple gate, which was very majestic. But see, the palace is lofty and the palace walls are towering. In front of the front there is a wall with 8 characters, and the area is covered with pink ochre red mud. Inside there are 3 corridors and river patterns, and the 4 sides are built with watermarked white stones. The main hall is magnificent, and the eaves under the 2 corridors are steep. The sacred ancestors of the 3 king dynasties are in the center, and the Supreme Lord is in the back hall with his back leaning on the green ox. After entering the second-level hall, turning round the first-level side door, it was Wu Daoguan's Taoist temple. When you enter the door, you will see yao grass, beautiful flowers, green pines and green bamboos. Ximen King looked up and saw a couplet posted on both sides of the door. The endless years of the cave. Hushan has its own universe. The 3 open halls above are where Wu Daoguan does his homework day and night. The paving was very neat that day, with the He-Ocean Golden Tower and the Jade Emperor hanging on it. The star officials of the Zaifu were listed on both sides, and hanging on the side were the 4 marshals Ma, Zhao, Wen, and Quan. At that moment, Taoist Wu bowed to greet him outside the Sutra Hall. Ximen King and others went inside, and after serving tea, everyone stood up and looked around. Bai Guang held Chang Jiji's hand and looked at him from the left. As soon as he arrived in front of Marshal Ma, he saw that the marshal was majestic and handsome with 3 eyes painted on his face. He called Chang Jiji and said, "Brother, this is... What do you mean? In today's world, it's easy to open one eye and close one eye, but there are always extra eyes to see the flaws in people." Earl Ying heard this and came over and said, "Brother Silly, has looking at you with extra eyes. Isn't that good?" Everyone laughed. Chang Jiji pointed at his subordinate, Marshal Wen, and said, "Second brother. This one is blue all over, but he is also weird. I'm afraid he is the ancestor of Lu Qi." The earl smiled and shouted, "Mr. Wu, come here, I will tell you a joke." Daoguan Wu actually came over and listened to him. The count said, "A Taoist died and met the King of Hell." The King of Hell asked, "Who are you?" The Taoist said, "You are a Taoist priest." The King of Hell asked the judge to check him. It turned out that he was a Taoist priest and he was not guilty, so let him go. Resurrection. I saw the Taoist priest coming back. On the way, I met a doctor in the dying room. I recognized him. The doctor asked, "Master, how can I be reincarnated?" The Taoist priest said, "I am a Taoist priest, so let me be reincarnated." The doctor remembered it, and when he met the King of Hell, he also said he was a Taoist priest. The King of Hell asked him to check his body, and saw 2 hands stretched out that were blue, and asked why. The doctor said in a Shuang voice, "Zheng, make love with Marshal Wen." Everyone laughed. On the other hand, he turned to his right and saw that the red-faced person in front of him was Emperor Guan. The one with a black face at the top is Marshal Zhao Yuanten, with a big tiger painted next to him. Bai Guang pointed and said, "Brother, look at this tiger. Is it a vegetarian? Is it okay to follow others?" The earl smiled and said, "You don't know. This tiger is his personal companion." Zida came over after hearing this, stuck out his tongue and said, "I can't make it even for a moment if I'm accompanied by you. Aren't I afraid that he will eat me?" The earl smiled and said to Ximen King, "It's a shame for him. Why did you come here?" Ximen King asked, "But what did you say?" The earl said, "Zichen alone wants to eat his companions, so I can't follow you. It seems that 7 or 8 of us want to eat yours, but you can't be scared to death. It's just you." As they were all laughing, Wu Daoguan came over and said, "The officials are talking about this tiger. I am the only one in Qing County who has not suffered from this tiger in the past 2 days. I don't know how many people have eaten, even the hunters. Killed a dozen people." Ximen King asked, "How did you come?" Wu Daoguan said, "The officials don't know yet. Otherwise, I wouldn't know either. Just a few days ago, a young disciple went to the officials of Cheda, Hanghai County, Kangzhou to transfer some money and food. I stayed there for 5 or 7 days before I had to come over. On the road from Qing County to Kangzhou, there is a Jingyan gang, a white-fronted tiger with an eye-catching appearance has recently appeared on the hillside. It often comes out to eat people. The merchants pass by and it is difficult to leave. They must pass by in groups. Now there is a reward of 50 taels in the county. If you want to take him, you can't get it. Poor these hunters, they have eaten so many sticks. Bai Lai Guang jumped up and said, "We will sworn brothers today. I'll go get him tomorrow and get some money?" Ximen King asked, "Is your life worthless?" Bai Lai Guang said with a smile, "You have money. Why do you want your life?" Everyone laughed together. Earl Ying said, "Let me tell you another joke. A man was bitten by a tiger, and his son wanted to save him and kill the tiger with a knife. The man shouted from the tiger's mouth, 'Son, you can chop it off easily. I'm afraid I'll damage the tiger's skin.'" Everyone laughed as he said this. I saw Wu Daguan preparing the sacrifices and saying, "Officials, let's burn paper." On the other hand, he took out the sparse paper and said, "The sparseness has been written, but which one is the elder? Which one is the next?" They're arranged so that they can wait for the taboos to be written down. Everyone said in unison, "Of course this is the senior official of Ximen." Ximen King said, "This is still a statement of teeth. Ying's second brother is as big as me, and Ying's second brother is the elder." The earl stuck out his tongue and said, "Master, you don't want to kill a villain. At this time of year, I have to talk about wealth. Where can I talk about teeth? If you talk about teeth, there are some as big as mine. And as the eldest brother, there are two things wrong with you. First, you are not as powerful and virtuous as a high official, and all the brothers will obey you. Second, I was originally called Brother Ying, but now I am the elder, but I want to be called Brother Ying. If two people come, one of them will be called Brother Ying. Brother Ying, one is called Brother Ying. I should still be Brother Ying. What about Brother Ying?" Ximen King said with a smile, "You cut the kid heartbroken. You only have so much time to spare. That's what you said." Zishi said, "Brother, stop pushing." Ximen King repeatedly gave in, but was forced to do nothing by Hua Zixu, Earl Ying and others, so he had to become the eldest brother. The second was Earl Ying, the third was Si Zida, and the fourth was Hua Zixu, who had enough money to become the fourth brother. The rest are arranged in order. After Wu Daguan finished writing the paper, he lit incense and candles, and everyone lined up in order. Wu Daguan stretched out the paper and read aloud, "The believers Ximen King, Ying Chu, Si Zida, Hua Zixu, Sun Tianhua, Zhu Nianxi, Yunli Shu, Wu Dian, Chang Zhiji, Bai Lai Guang, etc. From Qing County, Dongbing Prefecture, Shandong Province of the Wei Dynasty. Washed their hands and burned incense on this day to pray for the edict. Fu is Taoyuan's righteousness, and everyone admires him and dares to imitate his style. Guan Bao has a deep affection, and all the surnames pursue Wei and want to share his aspiration. Besides, we can be brothers all over the world. How can we not be as good as flesh and blood if we have different surnames? Therefore, in the present administration and the year, month and day, the camp prepares the pig and sheep sacrifices. The Luang controls the funds, the auspicious knocks on the fasting altar, prays sincerely, worships the god of Haoshan Golden Tower and the Jade Emperor, the meritorious officials of the 5 directions on duty, and the order of the County Gods Society. All the gods Jiaoshi in the past relied on this true fragrance to observe it universally. Although Fu Nianqing and others live different lives, they hope to die at the same time. They hope that the alliance will be eternal. They will share happiness and joy, support each other through thick and thin, and the thoughts will be forged to always be new. You will be rich, you will always think about poverty, and you will always have something to rely on. The love we share goes by day, and the friendship is as high as the sky and as thick as the earth. I wish that since the alliance, we will be in good company, and I pray that everyone will have eternal life, and every household will celebrate boundless blessings. Whenever you are in time, you should always be careful and careful. Essays on Zhang years, months and days. After Wu Daoist official finished reading, everyone had finished worshipping the gods, and they bowed 8 times before the gods one after another. Then send it to the gods, burn the money, paper, and accept the blessing gifts. After a while, Wu Daoguan asked people to unload the pigs and sheep, and put the chickens, fish, fruits and other things in order. There were 2 tables with big bowls and plates. Ximen King was at the head of the table, and the others sat in turn, with Wu Daoguan sitting next to him. After a while, after drinking for a few rounds, everyone guessed the order and laughed. No need to elaborate. Exactly, only then did I see the Fusang sunrise and the twilight driving the mountain. After getting drunk, a beautiful woman helped him away, and the crescent moon crescent was crescent on the treetops. During the lively drinking session, Diana came to Ximen King and said in his ear, "My mother asked me to pick up my father. She said that Sanyang is feeling comatose today and asks my father to go home early." Ximen King immediately stood up and said, "I am not the one who broke up the table. My 3rd concubine is very ill. Let's go get some rest first." I saw Hua Zixu saying, "Brother and I are going the same way. Let's go together." The Earl said, "You 2 rich men have gone. Why did you leave us? Brother Hua, please sit back again." Ximen King said, "There is no one in his family, so the 2 of us went together to avoid suspicion with his sister-in-law." Diana said, "When the little one came, the 2nd mother also asked Chan Viewer to prepare the horse. I saw a young boy approaching and said to Zixu, 'Here is the horse, Mom, please go to my father's house.' So the 2 of them stood up together, thanked Dao Guanwu for disturbing him, raised their hands with the Earl and others, and said, 'You can play freely while we go.' Then he went out and mounted his horse. Only these few who chewed up Mountai without giving up the soil were left to linger in the temple and drink without mentioning anything. But when Ximen King arrived home, he said goodbye to Hua Zixu and Ximen, asking Wu Yunyang, "Why is 2nd sister Zhuo so faint?" Yunyang said, "I said a patient is at home. I'm afraid you took advantage of this person and got involved there again. That's why I asked Danner to say. It's just that I feel like I'm getting tired every day, so you have to watch him at home." After Ximen King heard this, he looked over there and stayed at home for days. But time passed by, and it was already the 10th day of October. One day, Ximen King was sending his servant to ask the imperial doctor to diagnose Sister Zhuo's illness. As soon as he walked to the hall, he saw Earl Ying coming in with a smile. Ximen King bowed to him and asked him to sit down. The Earl asked, "Brother, how is your sister-in-law's condition?" Ximen King said, "It's hard to explain how many points there are. I don't know why it's better," because he asked, "How long did it take for you to leave the day before yesterday?" The Earl said, "Taoist Chang Wu stayed repeatedly, and there was more weather when we left. We were drunk, but it would be better if I came home early." Ximen King Yin asked, "Have you eaten yet?" The Earl couldn't say whether he had eaten, so he said, "Brother, try and guess." Ximen King asked, "How dare you eat it?" The Earl covered his mouth and said, "You can't guess at this?" Ximen King laughed and said, "It's strange for a dog to say that he never ate if he doesn't want to eat. How could he be so zhongzi?" He called the boy, "Here comes the food. Let's eat with my 2nd uncle." The Earl smiled and said, "Otherwise, we would have eaten it too. We heard something strange, and came to tell my brother that I wanted to go and have a look with him." Ximen King asked, "What's so rare?" The Count said, "It's the big insect on Jingyang Gang that Wu Daoist mentioned yesterday. It was beaten to death by a man's fist yesterday." Ximen King said, "You are talking nonsense again. We don't believe it." The Earl said, "Brother, I don't believe it. Just listen and wait for me to elaborate." So he danced and said, "This man has a name and a surname. His surname is Wu and his surname is Song, and he ranks 2nd. Why did he take refuge in Shadaguanren village before? Why did he fall ill later? And why did he go to find his brother after he recovered? How did he meet this tiger when he passed through Jingyang Gang? He was beaten to death by his fists and kicks. To put it bluntly, it was as if he had seen it with his own eyes, and as if he had beaten this tiger." After saying that, Ximen King shook his head and said, "Since you're dead, let's have dinner with you and go see him together." The Earl said, "Brother, don't eat. I'm afraid you'll miss it. We might as well go to a restaurant on the street and sit down." When Lai Xing'er came to set the table, Ximen King said, "Tell your mother not to look after the meal, but bring me some clothes to wear." After a while, He changed his clothes and came out hand in hand with the count. I bumped into Zide on the road and said with a smile, "Brother, are you here to see tiger hunting?" Ximen King said, "That's right. Zishi Avenue. It's so crowded on the street." So we went to sit down together in a big restaurant facing the street. After a while, the sound of gongs and drums was heard, and everyone looked at it together. I saw a pair of hunters with tassels and guns coming towards them, followed by the killed tiger, which was like a brocade bag that four people could not lift. At the end, on a big white horse, sat a strong man, the man who was hunting the tiger. Ximen King looked at it, bit his finger and said, "How can you seduce a person like this? If he doesn't have the strength of 1,000 kilograms of buffalo, here are 3 children drinking wine and commenting on it. So please leave it alone."
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.